We're going to take a look at inputs and outputs and how this requirement of the computer science for Key Stage 2 programme of study can be accessed in Purple Mash. What do we mean by inputs and outputs? Well, it's really any way that we can communicate to the computer or the computer can communicate back to us. So ways that we might communicate to a computer could be typing on a keyboard, perhaps moving a mouse around and clicking in different places on the screen. Maybe it's even controlling a computer or another electronic device with our voice. Children should be familiar with most of these ways of communicating with the computer. They'll also likely be familiar with ways that the computer can communicate back to us with its outputs, perhaps through a display, a screen, maybe through headphones or speakers, and usually children will know about printers as well, that they can print their work out. Another reason I think user input is important is just if we consider the sort of progression from a still image to a moving image or animation, and then taking account of user input can enable us to make that experience interactive, which just adds an extra sort of dimension to what we're offering the person using our program. I've got a superhero here in design mode, and if I just exit design mode, you can see a bit of code here, and children will be familiar with these green blocks called events if they've followed the programme of study and Purple Mash through Key Stage 1. So each one of these events here is some kind of input to the computer. So the top one that I've got, when key U, my sprite up, that's simply saying when I press the U key, make my sprite go up, so U for up. If I swipe my sprite on a touchscreen computer or tablet, if I swipe it right, then make it go right. Or if I point my mouse at it and click it, make it go down. So different ways of inputting intentions to the computer through pressing a key on a keyboard, through swiping on a touchscreen, or through clicking with a mouse. Let's just see it work. So U and superhero goes up. If I swipe her or click and drag my mouse on her, she'll go to the right, and if I click, she goes down. So there we go. 3 simple inputs to the computer to change what it's doing. And children, as I say, should be familiar with those kind of things from Key Stage 1. At Key Stage 2, though, the national curriculum talks specifically about inputs and outputs here in this bullet point. Children should work with various forms of input and output. So here in Purple Mash, we've got 2 sections at the top of our code blocks. We've got a section of purple blocks called output, and under that we've got 2 dark blue blocks for input. Let's explore them and just see how these work, and then we'll take a look at how we can integrate them into other code and use them with objects and so on. So the first one, probably one of the easiest, is print to screen. If we drag that in and drop it, straight away there's a flashing cursor in a box and it's inviting us to type something into the screen. So I can just type in here, hello everyone. We press play. As you can see, it's typed hello everybody on the screen for us. It's put it on the console. So press stop now. If I want to add a sound, I can pop a sound in here like this. This needs a little bit more because it's saying it's got several boxes that I can change things in. So I can change the sound, I can change how many times it's playing as well. So we press play, and there we get our zap sound, and it's printed the code. So 2 forms of output, sight and sound. The alert box actually stops everything, so you're probably familiar with these. And if I just put in, let's just put in here, press OK to continue. Or press the button. So what happens now? You see, we've got our alert box has popped up, and it's got the press the button OK. Now, what I want you to notice is over here in the code window, the alert is bright orange. That's because all the code has stopped running until we press that button. It's basically pressed pause on the computer, on this program that we've put in here. So as soon as I press OK, the rest of these instructions, these commands will happen. Like that. Now we know that when we're asked to engage with things, it's a little bit more interesting, isn't it? And we get more value out of it. So I want the user to type something in now. So to do that, I'm putting onto the screen, type a number and press enter. So to handle an input, I need to go to the input section of blocks over here, these dark blue ones. And I'm not prompting for input because I've already done that. I've already asked for the input with the purple box here. So I need to get input. So I'm just going to drag this box in here. And this get input is now going to accept information from the user. And what I want to do is to actually tell them what they've entered. So I'm going to put another print screen underneath it. And do you notice now, I've got another option pops up. Instead of just having a random number, I've also got the input. So I don't want to use it just yet though. So I'm just going to print out onto the screen, you typed, colon, put a space in so it's all formatted properly. And then I'm going to click the add sign at the end. Now, in this case, this isn't really acting as a mathematical plus, it's acting as an and. So I want to print onto the screen the words you typed, and I want to add whatever the user put in as their input onto the end of it. So do you see what that's doing there? Print to screen the text you typed and whatever the user input was. Let's try it out. So it's saying type a number and press enter, 1, 2, 3, press enter, and great, it's put back you typed 1, 2, 3. Nice and straightforward. So we're continuing at the moment to just look at using these input and output functions, these blocks that we have here in isolation. We're not using them with objects or anything in design mode. We're just seeing how these basic blocks work. And the next thing that I just want to show you is the prompt for input. So we can use this instead of, well, you'll see, we can use it instead of the print to screen and the get input. So I could actually delete these two top boxes that I had before. And then I'm just going to drag the prompt up to the top here, because this prompt is going to handle it all for me, everything that those two blocks would have done before. So we're going to say enter a number and press enter. So let's see how that works. So you can see what we've got now is we've got the alert box, but it's got an input box into it, and the cursor's flashing in here now rather than flashing as a green cursor on the actual sort of stage or console window. So I can put into here my 1, 2, 3, press OK, and it's bringing it back this way. So again, very, very similar to how we looked at it before by using the print to screen and get input, but prompt for input sort of rolls the two of them together and adds a bit of an alert box kind of function to it as well. This technique crops up in the Year 4 scheme of work. It comes up in this lesson here that I'm looking at with Reginald the Rocket. And if we look carefully at these bits of code here, you can see that we've got a print to screen here where it's saying sheep at the launch site, type shoe, and then it's asking for input. And then straight away it's doing a check with that input. It's saying if the input, i.e. if the user has typed the word shoe, then make the sheep go right. And now 2 seconds after that, make the rocket go up. Or else, follow these instructions down here. So let's just run that and see how that happens. So you can see we've got an alert box here saying prepare for launch. Okay. We click on the rocket and it's quickly zipped across the screen here, and there's a sheep next to it. So in the top left here, it's saying sheep at the launch site, type shoe. So if I type in shoe and press enter, the sheep goes right, and 2 seconds later, the rocket takes off. Basically what we've got here is a picture, isn't it? It's an animation, and we've been able to use input to make that animation interactive and more engaging. You know, it's a progression, isn't it, really, from a still picture, which we're looking at the moment. We've used some other tools about repeat and changing the x-axis within there, or the x-coordinate within here, to animate it, to move the rocket along. And then we've used user input to make it interactive. So from stationary to animation to interactive. And we need these inputs to make that happen. The same kind of idea gets used throughout Year 5 and 6. The children might just integrate it into a bigger or longer program that's basically more complex than what they've been doing here in this Year 4 scheme of work. Sometimes you might want to take input and then do something with it. So, for example, I've got this idea that I'd like to ask people which year they were born in and then tell them how old they are. So the first thing I need to ask is, in which year were you born? And we'll get that as an input. And then I need to do some maths with it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say print to the screen. And what I want to do is I want to say 2021. And then I just want to say something like take away your age. So I've clicked onto the add there, but now I can change it to a subtract sign. So I'm going to say 2021 minus the input. And then anything over here, I don't need anything at all. Just click there and click the bin. So if I say just type in now in which year you were born and I put 1995, it's telling me that I'm 26. Great. I'd like to just dress that up a little bit though and add a little bit of formatting to it. So I'm just going to create another one of those, but before I do the 2021, I'm just going to put you are, and then let's say, well, let's do an add here. So you are, and I want to do my 2021, and then the input there. Now I want to change that to a minus. And I need to do it that way and delete a few things later on. And instead of saying input there, let's say space years old. So let's just have a look along here. So I'm saying in which year were you born? I'm getting that input. And then I'm going to print to the screen 2021 minus that input, which was what I did first of all. And that just prints out the age. I'm going to leave that just while I work on this next one. I'll delete it later on when I tidy up. So here's the real line I'm interested in. Print to screen, the text, you are, and then and 2021 minus my input and years old on the end. Let's see how it works. So which year were you born? Let's say 1980. 41. You are 41 years old. Fantastic. Great. So now I could tidy that up and just drag that down to the bottom corner here. So it's worth exploring these different options on a print to screen line where you can add extra pieces to it. You might hear this sometimes called concatenation. So where I've got one of these plus signs that's really meaning add a bit on to what I'm printing, that's called a concatenation. But here my minus sign is being used as a mathematical operator to do a subtraction. So it's quite clever in that way how it works. Once children understand these principles, they can apply them to characters in design mode. So I want the pirate girl on the ship here to do the talking. So let's exit design mode here. And as you can see, I've got the code ready here. So my sprite is going to speak and say, which year were you born in for 3 seconds? We're then going to have a prompt, which is going to ask me to enter my year of birth. And then the sprite is going to speak. And notice that this line here is exactly the same as we had on the print to screen. So the sprite is going to speak you are and 2021 minus the input and years old. It's going to say that for 3 seconds. So let's just press play. Actually, let's delete this top bit here first, and then we'll just watch this character bring it all a little bit to life. So here we go. So she's saying, in which year were you born in? And the box is saying enter your year of birth. So I could put in here 1938. I'll say okay. And you are 83 years old. Now, in here, did you see? I just need to put a little bit of spacing in here. So I'm just in front of the years. I'm going to put a space in there because the 83 ran straight into the years old. So we'll just try that again to tidy it up. Let's go for 1927 this time. There we go. You are 94 years old. Nicely formatted, and the character's bringing it to life. So as you can see, in this session, what I hope to have done is to have just taken you through how we looked at the events that children will be familiar with from Key Stage 1, and then in Key Stage 2, we can take user input from the keyboard and do things with it to make the programs more interactive and engaging. I hope you have fun with it. Thanks very much for watching.